Hey everybody, it's John Barrowman here, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends with Martin the Flash, Harley Quinn, and X-Force 11. Now you all may know me as playing Malcolm Merlin, and here's a little something for you. Every warrior must learn the simple truth that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
Flash, are you okay? I've never seen you look so angry.
I need to ask you something. Last show, when you were smashing everything, did that make you feel better?
Yeah, totally. I love taking it out on stuff.
Can I borrow your hammer for a second?
Okay. Here you go. Whoa.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Can't hold it in anymore.
Yeah. I can't even imagine with Flash having a hammer in his hands and just going to town on something.
Probably wouldn't end well.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of damage in a matter of seconds. But
Yeah.
Well, welcome to yesterday's Legends, where we take our anger out on any fluffy blue critters until they're burnt to a crisp. We should all just follow Mick's lead. We are here to cover Season 3, Episode 9 and 10 for our rewatch, and I just got my anger out, the Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
And I'm shining my blue beacon of hope to illuminate the darkness caused by Damien and his crew. I'm X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
Excellent stuff. Hello, Gideon. Just a reminder that we are part of the Cybercast Network, which has a bunch of shows covering some of your favorite topics. You're listening to Tomorrow's Legends, where we're in our rewatch of Season 3 right now, and we will be getting back to Superman and Lois eventually. Plus, something new is coming your way in the new year, a brand new superhero show. I wonder if any of our listeners are taking a guess at which one that might be. That'd be actually kind of cool. Also, check out Dive Into DC with Silver Vox and Green Butterfly, where they dive deep into all things DC. They are fan favorites, and we love them, so go check out their show. And then, of course, check out the Mandalore podcast, which covers all the Disney Plus Star Wars shows, hosted by CyberRen, which is me and Dee Vizsla. And we just finished up Ahsoka, and we are trying to figure out what do we cover next in this long break of Star Wars, because we don't know when something is coming back right now. So we'll let you know over there, but check it all out. And let's get into our rewatch of... God, I can't even say this title. I'm just going to say Episode 9. One of you guys can say it.
Beebo, the god of war.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right, X-Force, kick it off for us.
All right, so I gave this one 8.5 Viking battles. Listen, we all hate Beebo because it was a bright blue signal of a downward spiral. Yes, Legends came back, but in a different way than what they were before Beebo. We mourn the change, but even in that, there were some good moments. This episode, to me, was a fun one the second watch around. I enjoyed the battle, the costumes, the character moments that we got. So I think we can be sad for the changes, but still enjoy the ride. And I did in this ep. So those are my thoughts. Harley?
You worded it really well there, X-Force, for sure.
I'm right there with you, Jeff. I gave this 8.5 Return of the Beebos. All right. Parts of this episode were still super duper cheesy, but I didn't think it was all that bad revisiting it, honestly. I think I appreciated a lot of the humor with so much time in between watching it from the first time around. Also, there's a lot of setup in this episode, and actually a lot happens. Like, so much happens. I was like, what is going on? Why are so many things happening? And then I remembered that this was the mid-season finale for season 3. Honestly, it felt like an end of season finale with the structure, all the stuff that they packed into it. It was like their actual like season finale format. They definitely do embrace the camp more, the goofiness more in this episode. But I also felt like we got a lot of closure with Stein's death in this episode, something that maybe I probably couldn't appreciate the first time around. And then, of course, we get the introduction of Ava Lance. Come on, how can we forget that? Shining bright moment. And then, of course, we have Jax leaving at the end, which is bittersweet, but at least he got a little bit of a send-off there, so I did enjoy that. So honestly, like, minus the little blue god, it really kind of was a good episode. Just saying.
Oh, guys, I think I'm gonna pull out the yellow suit out of the closet for this one tonight. Even though I'm wearing bright blue on the video, it's
feeling.
You guys got some good points because when I was writing this, I was only thinking about the parts that I hate, which was a lot of it. We'll get into it into the show, talking about the good stuff, like you said, sending Jax off and some of the stuff that was going on. Meeting Ava and stuff like that. Okay, there is some good points in there, but I got to get this off my chest because I'm only rating this one a 3. Worst TV episodes ever until the finale. Nope, I can't agree with you. It's way worse after all this time, the second time through. I am stunned that after such a fantastic crossover event, the Legends come back with this ridiculous garbage. Beebo is the stupidest thing ever created, and it ruins the show all the way through. This whole episode is so far-fetched, it's beyond enjoyment for me. Trying to sell the idea that Vikings would even believe in something like a doll being their god is asinine. Vikings aren't stupid. They're clever. They're intelligent. They conquered most of the known world in their time. They would never be this dumb, and it drives me insane. I hated this episode. I'll watch the Western ones over and over instead of this. And you guys know from the past who've been with us, I don't like the Western ones. I truly...
He hates the Westerns.
Yeah. I truly wish I was here last week to cover those 2 fantastic episodes with you guys and missed this one. I wish Thanksgiving was ahead a week because I don't want to really talk about Beebo. The second episode is good, but I really don't want to talk about Beebo. But we'll get to it and we'll reminisce about the good stuff for sure.
You can say as much or as little as you like in this one if you want, and then you can save all your thoughts for the next one.
I do have some notes written down that only talks about the good stuff. So because I just ignored everything else. So we'll get to it. But yeah, let's get into our talking points for the show.
Gather together from the cosmic reaches of the universe. All
right, guys, where are we going first?
I should probably look back at the notes since I took the lead on this one. We are starting with He Who Shall Not Be Named, so we can get this out of the way.
Okay.
And, okay. I'm going to start with the introduction. So I actually really loved this intro in hindsight. I loved the Arrow theme is kind of like playing over the scene, and it definitely introduces this goofiness that we will eventually come to love over the next 4 seasons. Plus, I just love young Marty. He's always so great. I love the actor that plays him. So I really enjoyed the intro. I know it's really cheesy. I've acknowledged this already, but it did not detract from my enjoyment. So
yeah, I had totally forgotten about them playing the Arrow music, so that was great.
Me
and
too.
Him hitting the one thing and it hits the next thing and it comes down. But the actor playing young Marty is great because he's got the speech patterns down to a T. I just really appreciated how he worked on that to make himself sound like his older. It was just good. I really like that.
See, now those are the first 2 notes I took for this episode that are positive. Because the opening until the whole, hit this, move that sequence of events happens, it actually is a fun opening scene. I mean, like you guys said, the casting for young Stein is spot on. I don't know where they found that actor or how much time he spent to harness Martin Stein, but he nailed it, and it's exactly how I would think Victor Garber would be when he was 40 years younger. It's hilarious. Yeah. He is absolutely amazing. And then yeah, that arrow music, when he grabs the little toy bow and the arrow music kicks in. Come on, it is perfect. It is pretty funny.
It is. It's really cheesy, but it's really funny.
Yeah.
So I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. That part of the humor is okay. I don't mind being silly in that sense, where it's fun. It's creating a situational moment. It's the stupid, ridiculous humor that really, like the Beebo stuff, that starts to get to me. But things like this are totally fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you kind of touched on that, but like throughout this whole episode, I mean, you have the whole ridiculousness of them seeing this blue talking stuffed doll that's basically supposed to be like their version of like Tickle Me Elmo, I think.
Mm-hmm. Or and Teddy Ruxpin or whatever, yeah.
Well, it was from 1992, which was, I believe, the height of the Tickle Me Elmo craze.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a kid of a certain age in 1992. Anyway, it was still the most ridiculous thing ever, and I do not like Beebo. I don't think it's going to age well. I don't think I'm going to feel much different about the finale, although we'll have to see when we get there about how much I do or do not still hate it. I still think they dropped the ball on a lot of things by the end of this season.
Yeah.
But I was mostly laughing throughout this episode at the blue god. So it was bad, but it wasn't as cringy, probably because I saw it coming. Like I knew it was coming. So it felt less cringy to me. Marty has so many play on words that are funny, but also totally tragic. It's just like, I forget exactly what he said at one point, but it basically he's like, what is it? Like I'm like dead or something? Or maybe Ray says, "Oh, it's good to see you alive and well," or something like that. It's just like so awkward.
Yeah.
But I do like that he does try to in the beginning. So I was thinking more of like this first scene where they're kind of like finding him in the woods because they think he's the anachronism, but
because he's wearing the blue Hanukkah sweatshirt.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because it's all about the blues, and he does try to warn them about the doll, and they didn't really believe him, and so they have to get him on the Waverider, and it turns into like a whole thing and like a running thing throughout the episode. So obviously. But I don't know. I laughed more this time.
Yeah, I gotta say, I like the Viking lore. It fascinates me. I know Flash likes it too. I watched several seasons of the Flash TV show, maybe 3 or 4. How many seasons did it have, Flash?
Vikings. It went. I think 7. I think.
Yeah, I think I maybe cut out in 3 or 4. But anyway. So the idea of Vikings conquering the Americas was kind of a cool idea, and I thought they did a good job picking the 2 actors playing Leif and Freydis, I guess is how you say her name. But the actor that plays Leif, his name is Thor. His actual name is Thor.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
So I think they did a good job picking those actors, and I think they did a good job with their part. So
yeah, and it has 6 seasons. I just checked it out.
Okay,
you should finish it. It's a pretty cool show.
Yeah,
and
I'll have to check it out.
I'm with you on that. I love the Viking lore and the history of that, and I was initially excited with them going here. And like you said, the idea of Vikings conquering North America and the world evolving based on that, I think, is a cool concept. It's just too bad it didn't last and it turned into something, utterly ridiculous. So, but the actors, you're right, the actors were really good. And same thing with on the Vikings TV show. If you look at the list of stars on there, a lot of them, because they're all from Norway or Finland or whatever, a lot of them have actual Viking names. It's hilarious.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, good stuff there.
Well, we have to talk about, the scene towards the end, of course, where Mick comes to the rescue and finally burns Beebo, which is what we all wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah.
I still love this scene. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Because does he say something about "I hate dolls" or something?
Yes.
And he's just burning the heck out of it, and everyone's in shock. And Well, actually, there was a scene even before that, wasn't there? Wasn't he punching it in the tent or something?
He steals like a drink from it, like they're treating it like a god, so it's got this whole like altar full of like offerings, whatever.
Yeah,
and so because Leo is making him be sober, to prove a point.
Yeah,
I thought there was a scene when he's punching it repeatedly, like just.
I think he was punching the Stein doll.
Oh, the Stein doll. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were wanting it to be Beebo.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, him burning the Beebo was great because, we all wanted that, but little did we know that, unfortunately, he will be back to haunt us for so much longer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was so cathartic for everybody
not in
here.
person again.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was.
Wow.
But at least not in person again. Okay, well, I know we don't have much else to say about Beebo, and I totally just hit the mic there. But I'm sure a few other things will come up but let's get into some of the other storylines. So the next one I called Dark Odin over here, and I actually really loved how they did this whole sequence where they kind of walk through the plan step by step, and we get to see all the ways that it goes wrong. It's such a fun narrative device to me. And it definitely reminds me of the episode, it was either in season 6 or 7, when Sara dies all of those different ways, trying to like win.
Yeah.
You know what they were doing they were at that like time bar or whatever, and she was trying to get through like
the assassination in World War One.
That starts World War One. Yeah, that's totally what it reminded me of. And so I was like, I wonder if they remembered that they did this and kind of used that and then expanded it. I thought it was a really cool device. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I know we got in that episode we got to see a lot more, and this would have been really fun. But it was a lot of fun seeing them, try it out and said, well, the different ways it's going to fail. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, initially it's a shock because Dark just goes and snaps Sarah's neck.
Yeah,
and for the moment you're just. What?
She doesn't die yet.
No, yeah, but
until season 7 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah. So it's pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, you look at Dark playing Odin, and they had to give him a wig from Arrow, and you know how we all complain about the wigs on Arrow.
Yes.
This one wasn't any better. I mean, my God. But
we'll get to it. But Nora's next episode is not any better either.
Oh my gosh! No, that little girl.
But anyway.
But what I liked though coming into this is I loved how our team looked as the Vikings, especially Sara and Ava, and especially Ava. Ava looked like she truly was a Norse fighting woman, and she looked fantastic. And even Nate fit in. Like he had the beard and they all fit in relatively well. But then I was looking at Mick. Mick didn't dress as a Viking. He looked like a Friar Tuck kind of character. I'm like, what is he hiding as? I didn't even really understand. But
the bare minimum.
Yeah. But they look great. And again, this calls back to all these early seasons when our team really tried to fit into the time periods they were in. And I loved it. I loved the costume changes and how well these actors always suited the time periods they were in, especially Sara. Sara was always, no matter what period she went to, she could match it. And it was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get to see Ray piloting Beebo to try to convince him.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of fun as he's trying not to choke on the stuffing. But what I really, really loved about this scene was getting to see Snart and Rory back in action together, using the guns together, and kind of flashing back to season 1 and even Arrow and Flash days.
Yes.
So it was so much fun.
It was. And then also the leader of the Viking, what was her name? You mentioned it earlier. Freydis.
Freyda.
Yeah. I mean, her and Sara and Ava, they actually reminded me, talking about Vikings again, the main female character on there was Lagatha. And they looked like, especially Ava, they reminded me of Lagatha. And Lagatha was...
she does look like Catherine Winnick.
Catherine
right?
Winnick, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, she was one of the best female characters I've seen on any TV show, so it was just cool. I like that.
Nice.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. And then Nora walks in on the scene and whew, takes your breath away. Holy cow. She's showing off a lot. And yeah. Hi, Nora.
You can see why Ray,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey.
So this is kind of like the point in the episode where the Darks tried to take off, because they actually managed to like overwhelm Nora with the guns. Like we were saying, it was really good to see Snart and Rory back together. And so when they transport away, Sara tries to tag along, except she does not end up exactly where she thinks she's going to.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ends up getting transported into Mallus's realm, and Ava actually pulls her out.
Yeah.
I love that touch.
Yeah, I had forgotten that it was in this episode that she got pulled in for the first time. And again, it's building up that threat of Mallus throughout this first part of the season, and building up that credible threat. So
yeah, well, like you guys, I forgot about this too, but then when I saw the scene again, what came back to me first was, wow, I remember all of us being so confused and trying to figure out, where did she go and why did she end up there? If Darhk and Nora time traveled to where they wanted to go and Sara has her hands on them, why did she not go all the way through? Why did she end up in this other dimension with, like, I remember us trying to figure out, and I couldn't remember what her solution for it was, why she ended up there when she should have went with them.
I don't think I remember our solution either, because I didn't go back and re-listen. But I just assumed that maybe because we know that like Mallus is like very present and connected through Nora, maybe he pulled Sara through or something. I don't really know. I think we just kind of ended up chalking it up to magic mumbo jumbo. And
I think, I can't remember what y'all said, but to me it's like Nightcrawler. Like he actually goes through another dimension when he teleports. He doesn't go like automatically to the other place. Okay. He goes through another dimension, and that's why there's that blue smoke that comes out when he teleports, because that's the atmosphere of that other dimension. And so like, I know with him, like, people have to hang on really tight to him or they could, fall off or whatever. So, I'm thinking it's they had that little travel stone and she didn't, and so maybe Mallus filtered her out. I don't know. I can't remember what y'all said originally, but
I don't either. But we do know from the next episode that the only reason they're able to jump through time like that is because they're harnessing the power of Mallus. So I'm assuming that because they're time traveling, like, so that that draws on Mallus, so maybe that was how he could grab Sara.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. That starts to sound a little bit familiar, maybe.
Yeah. I don't remember what we said.
Yeah.
That's me re-reasoning it.
Yeah. Before I forget, one point I want to throw in here, I got in my notes, is Amaya and her animal powers. It seems like from this episode and back, like the only thing she's turning into is a bear. And I've noticed that on this rewatch. Every time she taps her necklace, it's always a bear. It's always a bear. I'm like, kind of, and this is where Amaya kind of started to wash up and become kind of boring, because she doesn't do anything. It's just the bear every time, if she happens to use it. So I kind of think they let her powers really just lose creativity, because you could do so much. If you can draw on animals from the entire animal kingdom, let's get some variety in there. But it's always just a bear every time.
I know it's, that's strength, but like, if like you could, if you're going to be like, need to knock some people over, do the rhino, or, I see your point there. So.
Yeah. I wonder if budget just got the better of them, so they just had to reuse the same effect over and over.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. All right, well, let's chat about Leo for a little bit here because he features a bit prominently in this episode.
Yeah.
And I forgot about Puppet Stein until he pulls him out, and I was like, oh wow, I'm pretty sure I remember us hating this. But he playing the therapist, it was funny. It made me laugh, and the puppet, oh my god, I definitely forgot about that stupid puppet. And so it's I think funnier now than the first time around. Like, I am almost positive we hated this the first time around. I really got to listen to those old episodes, but it made me laugh this time.
Yeah, I mean, Puppet Stein and Leo as the ship's counselor. Well,
Yeah.
I just got to say, he's no Counselor Troy. I'm sure some folks appreciate his physical appearance just as much as Troy, but not as accredited as she is. But I totally had forgotten that Leo stayed with the team a bit, and our team needed counseling at this point, but I'm not sure that they were ready to accept it or him. So, yeah.
No. Yeah, I forgot the scene too in the puppet thing, but this was like the launching pad, because don't we get a full puppet episode in later seasons sometime?
Yes.
Or is it this season?
Yes. It might be later this season. We'll have to see. There's some callbacks that I think might come in the finale or the lead up to the finale.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of callbacks. Like, there's a lot of seeds that they're planting in this season that I didn't realize. I mean, I don't know if it's this episode or the next episode, but Astra is mentioned for the first time, and that's like 3 seasons early.
Yeah.
There's a lot of seeds being planted here, so it makes me wonder, did the writers have that far of a plan? Or were they just looking back and, oh yeah, we did this, okay, we can write a story from that point? Like, I
maybe a little both.
Maybe a little both, yeah.
Might be a little bit of both, yeah. I mean, in writers' rooms, they always talk about having like a card up on the wall or like a story point that they want to get to,
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. So.
But talking about Snart, though, like, it's interesting that he's here as much as he is this season, because he left after season 1 because the actor didn't want to be part of the show anymore. He wanted to move on with his life, and yet, so he's gone all of season 2, and yet he comes back for season 3 after his reasons for leaving, and he's here this much. I don't remember if we ever knew why he came back.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think, it's got to be fun for him to challenge his acting chops, because this is a much different version of Snart. And, I put down that I didn't remember here when he returns to Earth X. It turns out to be next episode. But, he adds a lot of fun while he's here. And so I think it's, maybe a way to ground things. But I'm not sure what his reasoning were, but it was fun to have him while he was here. So,
yeah. All right. I mean, we all miss Snart so much. Just listening to his voice is what we miss.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he made special appearances here and there. I mean, he did it on The Flash too. So I wonder if, it may be just as simple as they asked him if he'd come back for a couple episodes and he agreed. I mean,
yeah.
I think this was in between the Prison Break reboot. Couldn't they do a reboot around this time?
Another season,
Yeah. And so I think this was in between that. But I don't think we see him again after this, do we? Now I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I don't think so.
It's got to be fun for Wentworth and for Dominic Purcell. I mean, just to play with each other on all these different shows. Like, Prison Break and Legends are so opposite of each other.
Oh yeah.
In Prison Break, they're both tough guys, but Dominic doesn't use his Mick voice. He speaks in his normal voice, and it's so off-putting at first because he actually has a pretty high-pitched voice normally, and the fact that he can go down into the guttural Mick voice for this show, it's impressive for him. And Wentworth, Wentworth does not speak like this at all in Prison Break, so it's great to see how good these guys are at performing their characters.
Yeah.
That's funny. I've never really watched Prison Break, so
it's pretty good. I binged it after getting to know these guys on this show. I went and binged it. It was good.
Interesting.
Speaking of, since we're talking about appreciating the looks of people, I'm just going to throw in a point here about going back a few points when Ava reaches in and pulls Sara out. For some reason, it's like Ava came right out of a salon at that moment. Her hair's all fluffed up and her makeup's perfect, and she's wearing this. It's like she's in a dream state for Sara. Like, look how beautiful I can be. You want me, kind of thing. It's like that image stuck, because I don't know why. Because she doesn't look like that in the entire episode. It's just that moment when she saves Sara. Her hair is perfect. It's fluffed out. Everything about her is like she's a cover model for a fashion magazine. I'm like, and I mean, if I was Sara, I would have fallen for her for sure.
Well, she does.
She does.
Anyways, we kind of touched on this already, but we'll just, while we're talking about Leo, I had previously forgotten that he forces Mick to kind of prove he doesn't have a drinking problem, because he's kind of meddling with the team in all sorts of ways. He's trying to get, we find out he's trying to get closure for himself as well as Mick. And so just as Leo is as polar opposite for Mick is our version of Mick is as polar opposite for him. And so he's kind of trying to process all of that and trying to make him a better person, I guess, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, true.
Well, because we find out that Leo's Mick died in battle somewhere, and his version of Mick was the most compassionate, heartwarming, caring, kind fellow on his earth, and it's like you were just saying, completely opposite of our Mick. So for both of them to be facing each other and seeing completely different versions of their best friend, they not only do they have to accept that, they have to come to terms with that, but at the same time, getting to see this version of their friend, it allows them to process the loss that they each experience. So it really is a pretty complicated little relationship that's happening here. Even though the episodes don't focus on them too much, it's still really deep for these two.
It is. And I think it was good for both of them. So
for sure. All right, well, shall we move on to Ava Lance?
Oh, we're gonna give him the nickname already?
Yeah, because we know where this is going.
Yeah, okay.
That's the thing about our rewatch. We know how this all ends.
We do.
But the beginning, I love how at odds they were with each other, and slowly it just begins to wear down this episode. I mean, do you remember all of the theories this episode brought up? Because I do. And I love knowing how it ends. Is just making rewatching this a lot of fun, especially for their relationship, to watch it start.
What theories? Do you remember any?
Just the fact that, they're going to get together, and because, she looked at her and Ava said this, and so it was a whole thing. Everybody was oh yeah, they're totally going to get together. And we're like, no way. It was definitely a thing.
Flash, the funny thing is, when you talked about when Ava pulled her through, I didn't catch that. But I did when they were debriefing at the end. The change in Ava. Yeah. She had half her hair down. She's not, to show she's not as uptight. It's the beginning of the change in Ava. Yeah. And it's neat looking at her at this point and knowing where she ends up. So yeah, it was that beginning change of she's not as put together, and she's trying to loosen up. So yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. She comes out with her hair down, and I don't know if Sara noticed yet, but you can tell Ava's just trying to loosen up, and it is cool. We all love Zari, but I think Ava was a close second for me. I think Ava is one of the most deeply developed characters on this show, from the point that she starts to where she ends up. Yeah. Very, very developed, and that's what makes her such a fan favorite, because they gave her the time to work through that character, where some of her other ones never got even half that amount of time to develop. So, she becomes quite a in-depth character, and it's really, really cool. Yeah, for sure.
True.
And of course, this is the beginning of the two of them. I mean, little hints are there, and I think this is the first hint. Is it this episode when they're sitting at the Viking table? and they're talking. The men are hitting on them and you should get husbands. And Ava's like, I'm not into the husband thing.
Exactly.
There you go. There was the first crack, and Sara looked at her like, oh.
And that is the conversation that started sparking all of the theories. Speculation. Anyways. All right, so moving on to Zari for just a quick minute. She didn't have a ton in this episode, but what I really liked was her and Jax kind of bonding over Mortal Kombat, because she was trying to get him to kind of, I don't know, like move through his grieving process. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, she fits in so well, so quickly. And, she's not a rule follower, but, her spirit and who she is makes her fit in and bond with the team well. So, yeah, it's just these little things that, kind of cement her place on the team with, being able to bond with different ones and here with Jax. So
you're right there. Like, I think she acclimatized herself to the team faster than any other character. I mean, any other new characters that come in, like even Amaya and stuff, it took her a long time before the team really developed any type of friendships with her. And they maybe even didn't really, but Zari just immediately, one-on-one, because she becomes buddies with Mick, she becomes buddies with Jack. She's and it's probably Tala Ash in her performance, and I think she got really good writing, but they just gave Zari this perfect, I don't even know what the words are, but she was just able to like Play-Doh or clay, just mold to whatever people needed her to be in their time of need. And she's just such a good character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Jax and Stein.
Okay.
How do we feel about the closure Jax was getting this episode?
Yeah, I mean, it was rough seeing him dealing with young Marty, because Jax is, he's a problem solver and he's a man of action, and he couldn't save Stein, and seeing him like this was just heartbreaking because he wants to prevent it, but he doesn't want to mess things up, and it was just rough.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I totally agree. I mean, he tries to save him. I mean, very Back to the Future style, which of course I love. I love all of the Back to the Future references we get throughout this entire series.
Yeah.
But I think it's very telling that even young Marty feels the same way as his older self. I mean, he wouldn't read the letter to save himself, but I do feel like throughout the course of this episode, Jax does get some more closure. Not that I feel like he didn't have closure. I mean, he was with Stein when he died. He understood his motivations. He understood why it had to happen. But I just feel like getting to interact with young Marty and watching young Marty make the exact same decision that he makes, 40 some odd years later, I feel like that gives him more closure in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Jax needed that, even though he was trying really, really hard to break the rules. I think he needed to learn that Stein is going to be Stein. He's going to do whatever he needs to do no matter what. And
yeah,
is Jax being selfish by trying to save his friend in this moment because he can't handle losing him? Maybe that's what he has to get past. He has to get past, this is Stein's life. He's allowed to make the decision and choose. I shouldn't be giving him the answers and to change what, time was not going to allow to change anyway, most likely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he sees Stein's character and it doesn't waver, and then he's just reminded of, why he was the way he was, and it's a way for him to realize that, I was wanting to change it for me and not for Stein, and so that's what he's really seeing. So yeah.
Yeah, but I feel Jax's frustration too, because I think any one of us, if we had the opportunity, would try to save our best friend. And
yeah,
I understand the frustration of, here is a letter, read it in 40 years, it'll save your life, and they refuse. I mean, that's frustrating for sure. Like, you're presenting them with a way to extend their life, and they just won't accept it. That can be frustrating.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think we've all got people in our lives that, if we could have saved them, we would have. But it's tough. But at least, he kind of makes this decision that he's done with the team, which, of course, we all, knew was coming. And, he says goodbye to Sara. And then, of course, they throw him a going away party, which was kind of like our traditional holiday / end of season party that we get a lot of the time. And so that's where this really, really felt like a season finale to me instead of the mid-season finale. It just even the formula leading up to it. They had and they had the big conflict, and then they had this, and then they had the party at the end. And so I don't know. It just it felt very season finale. And Jax, he gets a decent send off. It'll become a running complaint throughout the years of who gets a good send off and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think in hindsight, Stein by far gets the best send off. He has almost an entire episode's worth of content devoted to him leaving the show. Jax gets a decent one. Who left? Someone else left. Who was it before this?
Well, we lose Nate at one point. We lose Mick eventually. They both didn't have very good goodbyes.
Mick had a terrible. I don't think we lost Nate. Didn't he stay? He was there till the end.
Yeah.
No, a couple episodes before the end.
Oh,
remember,
he does?
he decides to go live in the jar with Zari. And and he just says goodbye.
Right.
He's not there for the finale. The actor left the show 3 episodes before the end or something weird like that. It's what? You couldn't just stick it out, really?
Yeah. And Ray and Nora, I know none of us were happy with that.
Yeah.
And some people just kind of left without any fanfare aside from Mick.
Well, I don't even know what happens to Amaya. She just goes back to her country, doesn't she?
She goes. I'll speculate on this in the next thing, but I assume she has to have her memory wiped, and she goes back because we meet her in the season finale back in Zambezi in 1992, and we relive the events that Kuasa has already told her about.
We'll get to that.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I love the Waverider parties, though. This was being a holiday time when it aired. It was aired in December, so it was fun to have that. And I really appreciated Jack's speech. It just really sums up the team. So I appreciate that he kind of got to, sum up the team for us and remind us of who the team was. So I appreciated it.
I would love to be part of a party on the Waverider like that. It is such a ragtag family, and you're up there in the time stream, whatever, celebrating Christmas or what. It would just be so much fun. So much fun to be with those guys. But what surprised me is I forgot Jax only lasted 1 episode after Stein left. I thought for some reason he was around for a while and was I'm the mechanic of the ship, and I thought there was a whole half a season of him still. And 1 episode? That's it? He's gone the next time? Totally forgot that.
Yeah, I know he comes back in the finale, but I think he left, and then we see him in the finale, and I think then that's it until Gideon manifests him in season 7.
Yeah.
In the 100th episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to be her conscience or whatever.
Yeah, the ship's mechanic, except he gets to speak in his natural accent, which is fun.
Yeah.
Well, at the very end here, a scene I literally completely forgot about is we have the return of John Constantine. I just completely forgot that he finds them at the end of the episode and just shows up on the Waverider.
Yeah.
I thought that they found him in the next episode, not the other way around. So I just didn't even remember this scene.
Yeah. And I love that they brought in hints of his series music with him, and so I appreciate that, giving those little touches there. So
so we get that full force next episode.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, let's get to our favorite scenes for this episode, because I think we got some fun stuff here. What am I looking for? Oh, yeah, there it is.
Shape out an eagle!
I got so many clips on my soundboard, I didn't scroll down far enough to see the shape of the eagle. I'm like, where is it?
So much. So many things.
Tomorrow's Legends is the biggest clip list I have. All my other podcasts are much more refined and only half the size.
Yeah.
So I think I have like 25 Gideon clips in here alone, and that takes up all the space.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, you're first. X-Force.
So I called this one How We Heal. So listen, I know it's a short clip, but let's take a listen and then we'll talk about it.
All right, let's go.
I don't think the Legends are ready for the field.
Listen, Leo. Kicking ass is how we heal.
That could be the shortest favorite scene ever.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it is.
but I really like it because it shows how much Sara's grown in her leadership role, that she understands, the team. Yeah, she's not the best at dealing with emotions, but she knows her team and she's ready to stand up for anybody for her team. And I really, really like it, and it's small, but I just appreciated it. So
I really liked that quote too, so I'm actually kind of glad you picked it.
Yeah, it's a good one. And if you didn't put the time code on here, I never would have found it because it's so short.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Arlie.
All right, I called this one Co-Captains for Life.
Please tell me you have good news.
I'm afraid Director Bennett doesn't believe this mission is the best use of our resources.
So what, the Time Bureau just gonna let the Darks run around and change history?
The Time Bureau is in disarray. Ever since Rip was sentenced to prison,
Wait, Rip is in prison?
he was hardly convincing at the tribunal, raving about Mallus, completely unapologetic, and in his absence, Damien and Darhk has recruited even more allies. Gideon, can you pull up what Director Bennett showed me, please? Grodd survived Vietnam. Darhk secured him a means of time travel.
Of course.
Darhk and his daughter are just too powerful. They have magic that we don't understand. We've lost scores of agents trying to fight them.
So what? What does that mean? That you're just gonna throw in the towel?
We can't afford to lose anyone else.
And I can?
No,
Do you have any idea how hard this has been on us?
I really am sorry, Sara. Director Bennett has ordered me to return to the Time Bureau.
Screw his orders. I need you here.
Look, I know Darhk is personal for you, and you're the last person to back out of a fight, but you asked me to give you an outside perspective. If you're concerned about the safety of your team, leave Vinland. This is not a fight the Legends can win.
Yeah, I mean, even just in that speech, you could hear Ava speaking differently to her. She was so stern and, what's the word? Stern and
Protective.
Protective,
in some ways.
uptight, very, by the book. Like she was just, and this is a completely different version of her already.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I really liked it. I was like, this kind of shows the change. So it's a good one. And plus, Sara literally asked her to stay and help.
Exactly. I need you.
Yep. It's like, oh, foreshadowing. I don't know if they even knew that this far in advance, but love it.
I know. It makes me wonder if they just acknowledged the chemistry between the two actresses and then they wrote for that, or was this written in the show's, script and they just had to act it out?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because sometimes shows do that. Sometimes the writers will pick up on a chemistry between two actors that was never supposed to be there, and they'll write for. And I mean, that's what happened to Oliver and Felicity. Felicity was only supposed to be a guest star for 2 episodes.
That's true.
And because of the chemistry, look what happened. So,
yeah, that's true.
It happens. All right. Well, last time I was here, which I wasn't here, but I did give you my favorite scenes. Actually, we shared it. I think Jeff was the Stein passing away scene, and we're all crying. I'm also going to do it again with Jax having to say goodbye to young Gray again, because it's such a powerful moment between the two of them. Here it is.
The letter. You never read it.
That's because I already burned it. What? I was tempted. To be sure, I thought a lot about that date. November 28, 2017. I'll be 67 then. I'll have had adventures. Watched my daughter grow up. And I'll have made a friend who was willing to risk far, far too much for me.
No, I am trying to save you.
You need to let me go. We both know you shouldn't be here. I may have a life ahead of me, but to you, I'm a ghost. Oh, I'm not gonna cheat death, Jefferson. And none of us live forever. And yet I clearly live a wonderful life with many chapters. And if I had one wish, it wouldn't be for me to prolong my life. It would be for you to live yours and to have all the happiness you deserve.
Goodbye, Gray.
Goodbye, Jefferson.
There's that Legends Orchestra again. My God.
Stop picking these scenes.
They're using my heartstrings on those instruments, I swear. Yeah.
The music is very well done.
Jax needed that. He just needed to hear that.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Really hard. All right. Well, we are pausing for our ad break if we get some. I think we've been getting them pretty good, actually. Even this being a rewatch episode, I think we're getting lots of good ads in there. So it's helping the show out. Hope you guys don't mind that they're in there. It's 30 seconds of your time. That's not so bad.
And it helps us out.
It helps us out. It helps pay for the show. Here they are.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
And we are jumping into episode 10, and I got a little something for us.
Harley? Harley! Are you okay?
Harley isn't here right now.
What? Harley, what's going on? You don't sound yourself.
That's because she isn't herself. She's mine now.
No! You can't have her! She may be a bit snarky sometimes, and that hammer can be a pain, but she's our Harley.
She's yours no longer. This body is just a vessel, and soon I will be free.
That's it. I'm calling for some help.
Hi, this is John Constantine. If you feel you've reached this message in error, then sod off, you lucky bastard. The rest of you, don't leave a number. Unlock the door. Cheers.
Oh, no.
And now, here are your hosts, Flash and Harley Quinn.
Man, were we creative sometimes.
Wow.
100% do not remember that.
And pulling, I remember the John having the phone number in the Constantine series.
Yeah.
It's an Atlanta phone number. Fun fact.
Pulling in that's awesome.
I think it's still I don't know if it's still active. It was then, but I don't know if it is
probably
this many years later.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But yeah, they filmed in the Atlanta area, so it's an Atlanta phone number, which I always thought was fun.
So funny. I forgot about that one too, Harley, until I heard it. I was like, I can't believe how creative we were back then. Because you read the lines. Well, you read the lines, and then I had to put the echo on it and the reverb to make it sound like you were possessed in somewhere off in the distance somewhere. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm quite proud of these little skits we did, even though they're super cheesy, but pretty creative.
Yeah.
Very creative. I 100% do not remember that one at all. It's like, whoa. Okay.
I talked like that? How'd I do that?
I mean, I know you added all the effects in, but I mean, just still, I don't remember saying the words.
That's why we're doing this. Good flash to the past.
Yeah.
All right, Daddy Darhkest, ratings.
I gave this one 9 Masters of the Dark Arts, and spelled like Damien Darhk.
Yeah.
But that was, Constantine's line on his series. But so, yeah, anyway. So, listen, I was a fan of the Constantine series. So, I remember liking this episode the first time around. And I liked it this time around a lot too. We have a lot of story jam-packed into one episode, but the writing was tight, and even though the tone was dark, I think they made it feel like Legends. Plus, it was fun getting to see powerful John and powerful Damien kind of in their own arenas there. So it was a good one. I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I'm right there with you. I gave this one 9 action-packed episodes because this one was super fast-paced. Like, I still liked the intro of Constantine and how they tried to blend the darkness of his series with the lightness of ours. I think in this episode, they pulled it off really well, even though we know they will end up watering him down over the next 3 seasons he stays with the show. But they were more true to his series in this episode, for sure. There was not a lot of lightness in this episode, like really very at all. It was very, very intense. They tried to liven it up a little bit at times with Leo's banter and then like Mick watching the football game.
Yeah.
But this was the first episode that we came back to after the mid-season break, and you can definitely start to see where all of our storylines are actually starting to converge now. And so where it had seemed like they were kind of separate storylines, this episode starts to bring them all together. So I actually had a lot of fun revisiting this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you guys too. I give this an 8, creepy as hell for Legends. I forgot how well they did the horror vibe in this episode. They had all the right elements from the best horror franchises, whether it was Exorcist or, Fright Night or Friday the 13th, whatever. It was all in there, or the Conjuring movie series. Everything was there. It was creepy. It was scary. Great introduction, like you guys said, to Constantine for those that didn't know who he was, because I think they really showed us what this character was about. Because I remember back then, they were highly promoting the fact that Constantine is joining our show, and Stephen Amell was promoting that he's the one that got Constantine on our show because he fought for him after his show got canceled. So they really, really promoted it, and this was a great way to introduce him. Plus, they also had some great supporting cast to fill out this episode. I mean, the little girl playing young Nora, she was a creep factor 12. Crazy, and the nurses were great, and everybody in here was just, it really rounded out the cast beautifully. And like you said, it's just a shame that this season and the next, for me, we're so heavy on the Constantine stuff that we kind of we start to lose all sense of what Legends was about, because John's story kind of takes over everything. Even though they started it strong here and it seemed like they were going to mix it really well, they end up not. It ends up becoming mostly the John run series for a while there, and because I remember us questioning, what are the Legends even doing? Like, time traveling superheroes helping a dark warlock fight demons. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't mix. And I'm gonna be interested to see how I feel about it this time around. But this truly was, for me, the start of the downward slope for a while. Yeah, before the break we got Beebo, and we all took big, huge knee-jerk reaction to it. But then this one, even though this episode was good, the turn to the darkness and fighting the demons and all that, I think is where Legends lost their own grip on themselves, and our show kind of declined for quite a while, and it took a while for it to come back, like season 7, for it to really get itself back. So
yeah, well,
yeah,
that's true. I don't know. It'll be interesting if we continue revisiting the seasons just to see how we continue to feel about it. But I do remember that as well, that it got, especially season 4, gets really focused on Constantine but it's not Constantine to this level, or even and definitely not to the level that it was in his show. So
Yeah.
It gets to be a bit different, but
cool. Let's transition into our talking points for this episode.
Holy Twin powers, activate!
Haven't heard that one in a while. How to use it.
There you go. I loved the opening. It was super creepy. It was very Constantine.
Oh man.
And I even think back when I was doing like my own rewatch, the clip that I used a clip from this particular episode that he says in the very beginning, something about everything being normal.
I'm glad they brought some of the series vibe back with him because we'll get in. I'll talk about it later, but Matt was great as Constantine. So
you guys
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was such a creepy opening, dark, horrific kind of start to the episode. Like they nailed it. I didn't think I was like, am I watching the right show? Like,
yeah, and I love the twist that we get that Emily that he's trying to help was Nora.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it was just her origin story, the origin that shaped her down that evil path that led her to be the Nora that we know. So I think it was an interesting twist of like, okay, it's this Emily girl. Well, wait a minute. No, it's actually Nora. So I think that was a neat twist that they worked with us. So.
And I almost forgot that when they said it here again on this watch, I was like, oh yeah. And then I remembered how shocked we were the first time through. Like a young Nora, what the heck? Like we're gonna witness all of that. There was still some good writing back then, in the way they weaved things into our episodes, and they surprised us many times back then. And I miss that stuff. It was so good. And like you said, Jeff, like the getting an origin story for Nora really gave her a solid base, which I think built upon it, and why we ended up liking her so much, and then ultimately being disappointed that we never got her as much as we wanted her in the later seasons. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, I really enjoyed like kind of rewatching this just because we could see how things played out, because I remembered certain bits. Like I remembered Emily was really Nora. And I was like, okay, well, when are we going to get that reveal? And then I remembered Damien coming back in the end, which we're going to get to later. But there was all of the in-between stuff that I had like completely forgotten. And so I really enjoyed kind of watching all of these different things that they did, and including like when she sends them back in time. And I was like, oh, I kind of forgot about this. Like, I thought this was a totally different episode, because there is another episode where I feel like they're in, or maybe it already happened, but don't they go back to like this similar time period in an asylum, and then Sara has an affair with someone? I swear that happened.
I felt like it might have been this episode, but that wasn't this one.
But it wasn't this episode, exactly. So I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of like conflating things and maybe misremembering some things. So I kind of liked watching it play back out, and then like I forgot that they get sent back in time, and then they have to sort out how they're going to communicate through time. And I was like, oh, that was just kind of like a fun little tidbit. And of course, it doesn't end up working out, but like still, it was kind of fun. And then seeing that the doctor is the same, and I was like, oh, I remember. It's like the guy with the glasses. Like, how does she end up playing back in? And then we don't get that reveal until the end. So those were the things that I had kind of forgotten. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, I like their idea though of the breadcrumbs through time of like, okay, the picture's still going to be there. We'll leave the message on the picture, and so the future legends will see it. So
well, and back then I remember me and Harley just loving it, because that is time travel nerderific stuff. Like they just leave a message that's going to stay there hopefully for the next 50 years, and they'll find it later. Like how did they ever know that someone's going to take the picture off the wall in the future to read the message? Like it's pretty risky.
Well, it falls on the floor.
Yeah. So
I think that was the idea, is that it would fall on the floor, and then whenever the legends in 2017 go back to the room to investigate, then in theory they would have found they would have found the note.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But that never happened.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I also remember that they use this trick in later episodes. Remember there's a scene, something about the helmet moves on Sarah's table from one spot to another, and somebody notices, hey, isn't that supposed to be over there? And that's how they clue in. Like, I can't remember where that happens, but I know they use this trick, and it's cool every time.
And they don't overuse it because it could easily become inconvenient. You know what I mean?
Could easily become, exactly. But that what was now I forget the point I was going to make. Yeah, you got me excited about something else, and I forget my original point.
Sorry.
The creepy part was when the little girl was they had Emily inside the drawing that Constantine, and he said, that's okay, I've got Mallus trapped in here, I'll control him, we'll get the answers we need. And then when Mallus takes over Emily and he just basically walks out of the magic circle, damn, that was creepy. And it shocked all of them too, because they just expect Constantine knows what he's doing, he can stop.
Yeah.
And Mallus just walks right out of it and laughs at him. That won't work on me. Wow. Like that again is another perfect horror way of writing things that horror movies deploy. And this show really nailed it. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they did a lot of good stuff. And then like kind of looking back on it, I really liked the scenes with Sara and Constantine because it brought everything back. We got the nice callback to her time on Arrow, and it still kind of blends in that darkness of the original Constantine nicely, even if, again, we know they're gonna lighten it up over the next few seasons, but at least this like reintroduction of him was about as close to his show as they could make it on our show. And so I really liked that. And then tying the pieces together with her and Constantine, that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, they had to make him fit in, to bring some balance. They couldn't keep the series this dark.
Yeah.
But it was great for the Arrowverse to give Matt a chance to live in the role that he really made. I mean, I watched the Keanu film, and I've listened to the Sandman audiobook. I haven't watched the adaptation, but Matt's portrayal of the character is more true than Keanu's was, and I think he just lived in that character and became that character, and it was great. And we'll talk more about Sara and Constantine a little bit later, because that's my favorite scene. But the two of them talking was just really awesome. So
and some other things before I forget, like to go along with the good horror vibes, is when Sara was running down the hallway and she was freaking out about stuff, and she stops and she's listening to the wall, and then the demon comes through the wall and stretches again, right out of horror movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the creep factor is there, the horror vibes are there. Katie Lotza's performance, because we have never seen Sara scared before. And I know we talked about this way back when, Harley, but to see our Sara Lance, our captain, be that frightened by what was happening around her, that just added to the whole sequence of how scary this really, really was. And what is going on with Sara? Why is she scared? She's not scared of anything. I mean, that freaked me out too, to watch her be scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was well done. Really well done.
And then also the editing. I want to comment on that because I edit videos. Like you guys were saying, fast-paced action and all that kind of stuff. This episode was cut together so quickly, with quick cuts going from a horror moment to a scared face to a different scene somewhere else, and coming back together and not losing or skipping a beat, and everything just seamlessly flowed. It was well put together episode to give you that scare factor.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. No, I think it was really well put together. And then like another scene, so that kind of stood out to me, was when Sara again gets pulled back into Mallus's world, because their time time travel breadcrumbs theory got kind of botched when Leo got caught. So they're having to find a different way to travel back through time. And so like with Sara ends up trying to channel Mallus and kind of capitalize on this connection that they have. And so she's in there, and then she realizes that Nora is stuck in there because Nora is being possessed by Mallus as well. So I was like, well, that's kind of interesting that two people could get sucked in there at the same time. But this is also how we learn about the 6 totems and that they actually have an effect on Mallus because of Zari. So there's so many different things kind of happening in this, and some of these pieces are in like different sections, I think. But it was just well done, and I really kind of liked them playing with that world and showing both of the characters in there at the same time. Was pretty cool.
Again, breadcrumbs is a good thing, or sprinkling, like foreshadowing bits that they're laying the groundwork for what's to come in the later season and later seasons as well. And it really makes you appreciate how good our writers were back then.
Yeah.
Just by laying down these little hints, and it just goes right over our heads like, whatever. And then it comes back around 7 episodes later and like, whoa, I remember that. And I mean, really well done. Yeah, good writing.
Yeah. And, I was really fuzzy about the totems. I was like, the first time we were watching, we're like, what does this totem storyline have anything to do with the Mallus storyline? What's going on here? And so, again, like Harley mentioned, this is the episode that they start bringing all these storylines together. So,
Yep. Yeah, this was our first episode back after the mid-season break, and that's usually when, during a well-written season, you'll have different storylines, and then after the midpoint, they'll all start coming together to feed the big storyline. So I thought it was particularly well done in this season.
Yeah, and it was somewhere in here that we get our first mention of Astra, and
yes.
That was a seed, because when does Astra show up? Season 6? Is that when she joins us?
Yes, but she's also like a big thing in the Constantine lore. It was always all about Astra. And so the fact that they were even able to like bring her into the series at all was actually kind of cool. It went way different than I think any of us thought it was going to go once we finally get there. But it was still cool that they kind of acknowledged it and give him closure on that, because you see that that's something that clearly haunts him. So and it informs the Constantine character quite a bit.
Yeah, totally. And just looking at what I have written down here, I know you mentioned it in your opening bit there, X-Force, about the hookup with John and Sara. When I saw that scene, I was trying to think back. Is this really one of the only times we see Sara with a man in this entire show? Like, she pretty much sleeps with women all throughout history, right? I don't think we ever see her get together with a guy that often.
Not often, but it happens a couple of times.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. So.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And then another scene that I had totally forgotten about at the very end, when Constantine's like, how do I get off this ship? And Ray's like, oh, it's actually a very intuitive system, totally oblivious to everything.
Oh,
and the whole reason is that he wants it is he's trying to warn him about Sara. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
And that's the hint at the Sara's dark storyline.
Mm-hmm.
The dark totem or whatever that was, death totem.
Yeah, death
totem.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. I forgot about this until I watched it. Is on the NBC series, he could never smoke, and that's a big part of his character. Like he could, he couldn't because of being on network TV. And this was kind of interesting that they actually let him actually light up in this episode, and Gideon was like, this is a no smoking ship.
So, it was also a fun gag throughout the episode of him not being able to get a light.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I also liked something I wrote down here that pointed out that the beginning of Nate and Sara developing a stronger bond with each other, because we're in season 3 now, and Nate joined us at the beginning of season 2, and because he eventually kind of becomes second in command, eventually, kind of like her right wing. And I found in this episode there's a moment where Sarah's arguing with, is it with Constantine or with one of the dogs? I can't remember. And Nate's sitting there listening in, and Sara wins the argument, and she looks at Nate for his approval, and he's like, "Good one." Yeah, you know. And she's like, and it's just neat. Like it's just the first hint of the two of them working really well together as, you know, as the senior members of the team. And I love that, just that little bit of friendship, just that little spark of it there, that they can be snarky and have fun silently together when nobody else is paying attention. It was just cool.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Well, I have a few notes here on Ava Lance, of course, because it's going to be a running theme throughout the rest of the series.
Yes.
And I love that Leo totally picked up on it. I completely forgot about this. Completely forgot about it. He pointed out that there's something between the two of them. And I don't even know that Sara was ready to acknowledge that there was something between the two of them. So
he saw right
totally
through
loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, he totally did. I was like, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and even when he first walks on the ship, he's like, "Hey, handsome," he's hitting on John and he's hitting on the girls. Like he didn't care. He's just, or sorry, John's hitting on Snart and hitting on the girls. Like he didn't care. He's whatever. I'll adventure with everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's another big part of Constantine's character is the fact that he's bisexual.
Yeah.
And they do explore that a bit throughout the series, and the same thing with Sara Lance.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was neat. I'd forgotten about the hologram technology, so seeing Hala Ava was fun. And then, I agree. Leo's very insightful in his words, and they hit home.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if this is mentioned further on, but I was kind of thinking that Sarah's fling with John was maybe her way of pushing back at what Leo had said, maybe denying her own feelings for Ava. I don't remember if it's brought out in the future, or what's going on, but that's what I thought about when she and John hooked up.
Yeah. I think that's the intent behind that. I don't know if they actually come out and say it, but
yeah, I don't think they come out and say it, but I do feel like it was very opportunistic, if you will.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, I might really be thinking about somebody else, but you're here now, so we're just going to kind of go for it. That's kind of how I took that. I didn't say it was healthy. I just...
No. Well, either to Sara, even she says, "Are we this damaged?"
Exactly. Yeah. He says, "Oh, I hope so." I was like, "Oh, well, that's fun." Oh, Mick. All right. So I have a few notes here on Mick as well. This will come back later, but love it when he takes charge.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, just so he can watch his football game in peace. I love it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved it.
It was such a good scene. We'll talk about that in a little bit here, but it was such a good scene. Because just leading up to it, he's so frustrated. He just wants to watch a live football game. And was it Zari that wants to look into the future and give him the score, and he gets mad. And then he's trying to watch, and everybody just happens to come into that room to have their own little conversations, and they just don't care about what he's doing. And it's just so funny. He just gets so riled up. And then I remember I pointed this out back then, but that was actually Canadian football footage that they were using, and they just blacked out the hell. I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. I guess they can't. The rights to the NFL is far too expensive. We'll buy the rights to CFL because that's cheap football.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Yeah.
I do remember you saying that now that you brought that up. Oh, and then the other scene that we get, and I just thought this was really touching towards the end when Leo says goodbye, and they both have a bit of closure finally.
Also coming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
But I agree with you.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, then let's move on to Zari.
All right.
All right. So a detail I did not remember was that Zari was institutionalized when she was younger.
Oh, Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she says that in this episode. So much of her history ends up changing, and I just completely forgot about this. Also, her roommate thought she was a cat. So later, when she actually turns into a cat, I think this was the callback.
You're right. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I had forgotten about that too. And, Zari has had a rough life. But like I talked about in the last podcast, her experiences enable her to connect with hurting people in ways that others on our team can't. It's a side of her that I really didn't see the first go round, but I really appreciate it now. And I think that's why I liked her the first go around, but I don't think I understood why I liked her, because she's able to connect and be there with people who are hurting, who are going through tough circumstances because she's been through it herself. So I think it's one of the reasons I liked Zari 1.0 is because of her ability to connect because of her past.
You nailed it. I mean, that's exactly why she's able to build one-on-one relationships with every member of the team. She takes her experiences and she's able to apply that to what they're going through. I mean, she essentially is Counselor Troy.
All right, so her and Ray have this not so brilliant idea, and then by her and Ray, I mean her. Definitely all her. To take Nora to a coffee shop because it's better than being in an insane asylum, which, yes, but also no. So this is this whole huge big scene. It's got like these crazy horror vibes, and at the end of it, Damien shows up, because at some point I knew he had to show up. Because if he doesn't, then they end up stopping Mallus from taking over Nora, which completely derails everything. Partially everything that's happened this season, and then also partially everything that is yet to come. So we knew something had to happen. But I had forgotten the connection with the doctor, because I was like, I remember this being, like, this doctor is prominent. Like, there has to be something here. And it reminded me that she was involved with the order that had brought Damien back. So this whole order thing was all also interconnected and woven into the story.
Deep.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Very deep. All I can say is poor Jitters. That coffee shop gets wrecked over and over, and no matter what TV show we're on, that one location gets wrecked.
They've got to have great insurance. Great insurance. But it was fun to see Nora relax a bit before Mallus takes over, for her just to actually experience things. And, she's been in foster care, she's been institutionalized, she's been through so much. It was just fun to see her relax a little bit and have fun with Nora and doing the catchphrase game or whatever it was with the phone on the head.
Yes. You guys know this is a state too, right?
Yeah.
I
love Zari.
Oh goodness.
Me too. Love Zari.
But I was a little bit mixed on this latter part of the scene, because I mean, I know Damien needs her to grow up and become who she is so that she can bring him back. But I'm just wondering, because seeing Mallus as savior when he clearly just wants to use Nora as a shell. I mean, I'm like, Damien, are you just not seeing what he's going to do with Nora? I mean, I know we get that further on in the season, but his just motivation, I'm like, do you really understand what's going on here? So, I was questioning his motivation here. So,
no, right now I think his motivation is self-preservation.
Yeah,
because if Nora never gets possessed by Mallus, she never brings him back. So,
and I think in this season we question him the whole time, like he is self-centered and only worried about himself until the point where Nora almost dies, and that seems to be the straw that breaks his back. He almost loses her, and then he snaps around and starts becoming the caring father and not such a bad guy after that. Isn't that what happens as we go along here?
I think more or less.
Yeah.
We'll
Something like
find
that.
out. But
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. Well, Amaya kind of has her own story going on throughout all of this. So I just had like a couple points here, and I've said this before, and I'll probably say it until it happens or doesn't happen. I don't know. I need to be reminded what happens to her, but I feel like she has to get her memory wiped at this point because Kuasa told her everything that happens, literally. And these are the bits that I didn't remember either. So just as a reminder, I mean, it was like Kuasa ends up being abandoned by her family, which Amaya insists was accidental, even though she clearly has no idea because it hasn't happened to her yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And she just wants to protect her village and save Amaya. Like, that's her whole mission. And she actually wants to change that history, which I do believe we see cannot be changed. So,
yeah. I mean, Kuasa here, I mean, she's doing what she had to do to survive growing up.
Yeah.
But teaming up with Damien is not good because he never needs to be underestimated. And Amaya knows that, but Kuasa's going to learn it pretty soon that, you know, like he's got his own motivations and you think you're going to be able to use him to get what you want, but that's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, I think this story is in the wrong season. Like, you should have dealt with the Amaya and Kuasa stuff last season, because you're bringing in Constantine and all of his stuff. This just seems so far separated from what's going on in the season storyline that I'm this second time through, I'm kind of bored with Amaya's story and the Kuasa. Just every time the scenes come on, I'm like, I don't really care. Let's get through it.
yeah, but it all relates into the totems, and that's why it ends up being important, because the totems all originate with Maya or something like that. I don't know. We'll get more answers as the season goes by, because we do eventually find all of them. But so I don't know. Now, I had a question. So in this scene where Amaya mistakenly trusts her granddaughter and she has Nate hostage with, like water drowning him, Amaya, to get her to stand down, tells Kuasa that she needs Nate too. I literally don't understand why that worked to get her to let him go, because why in the world would she need Nate? Nate's not her grandfather.
Yeah.
So that confused me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just she's just saying that I need Nate. Like, I love him. I need him. He's my partner, whatever. Maybe that's all it was. Just something simple. Kuasa doesn't want to kill her grandmother's boyfriend, because then that creates a rift between them, eh?
Yeah, but they're not together.
Yeah.
At this point in time, Amaya and Nate are not together.
No, I don't know. I'm just trying to throw darts
I don't know.
board.
I don't have an answer.
Legitimately confused. I'm like, why did that work?
Yeah.
So, anyway, if I had to have a nitpick, that would probably be.
Well, I know what does work, and that is our favorite scenes. Let's get back into those for this episode.
Shape out an eagle!
All right, Harley, we talked about it. We love this scene, all of us.
We did indeed. So I chose Mick Takes Charge.
Guys, I think Sara is in trouble.
Quiet! Haircut, take the new girl. Fine blondie, fake snart and trench coat. Amaya, the med bay. Pretty, the library. Water bitch, stays in the freezer.
You know, Mick, you're really showing some management potential.
Get out.
Quiet!
And I love how he only uses one person's real name, and it's Amaya.
Mick was truly one of the best back then. Oh, man.
So funny.
So fun. Oh, gosh.
All right, how about you, X-Force?
All right, so I called this Two Damaged People, so let's take a listen.
I saw pickle juice in a gin and tonical. It's all out right now.
I thought this was all over. The bloodlust, the fight for my soul, all the crap that I've had to endure.
Well, there's always more crap to endure. Take it from one who's damned his own soul to hell. There was a girl in Newcastle. Astra. I failed her.
Some might say you should forgive yourself.
Well, if I could, then perhaps I wouldn't have the need to save the likes of poor Nora. What about you? Have you forgiven yourself for your sins?
I don't deserve forgiveness. What is that?
Just a little reminder that you're a survivor. Strong enough to keep even the most powerful demons at bay. A laundry room in a mental asylum in 1969 might not be the worst place to be stuck.
Are we really this damaged?
I certainly hope so.
I had to let the music stay there because it's just funny. Like, what a funny song to kick off an affair.
Yeah.
Insert cheesy 70s porn music here.
Yeah.
Late 60s in the case. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, I didn't like the hookup, but I love John and Sara talking about their troubled past that shaped who they are. It was powerful flashbacks to Arrow and Constantine both, and just really helped you identify who they were and help them bond. And again, like Flash said, for those who didn't watch the Constantine series and weren't up on things, it gave a small picture of who he is and what shaped him.
And what drives him, yeah.
Yeah.
And it also, for me, it reminds me that Sara is carrying a lot of weight. Like, we tend to forget the amount of darkness she went through. I mean, she died early in Arrow and was resurrected later, and there's, and she had the bloodlust and was just wanting to kill everything and anybody. There's a lot that she went through, and I think this episode precedes, like, there's still that one coming up where Laurel, her sister visits us. They have that scene on the couch, right? That's coming still, because Sarah's still struggling with all of this until that moment where she gets to visit Laurel and have that moment, and that's where Laurel kind of gives her the name of, you're now the White Canary. Like, you've passed all of that stuff. And so this reminds me that, oh yeah, Sarah's still carrying a lot, and we don't realize that because of how great a leader she is. We don't realize how much there's on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's
well, plus the card that Constantine gives her is, it was a black bird and a white bird.
Yeah.
So symbolizing from black canary to white canary. So
foreshadowing again.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So I
thought she was going by the white canary at this point, though, from this whole series.
I think it's not until Laurel gives her that name, from what I remember. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see, but yeah, it's. I think. I keep talking about developed characters. I mean, if not Ava, and Sarah's definitely a front runner for how well this show developed her.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
And changed her. I mean, she's probably one of the, if not for Oliver, she's probably the next best lead character of any of the Arrowverse shows. I would say Sarah Lance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, I'm going back to the old feels because I just love hitting myself in the chest and, Let's go back to that time when Mick had to say goodbye to Snart again. Because it sucked. But it's good.
Just wanted to say I'm grateful. Grateful I was allowed to tag along with you in the Legends. It was an experience and an education.
Likewise.
I'm proud to know you, and this is hard. This is me saying goodbye. Take care of yourself, Mick.
You too.
You know he's still watching TV, right?
I wasn't watching TV. Just a little bit.
On that note, Captain Lance, I'm going home. I'm gonna ask Ray to marry me.
Ray?
My Ray, not your Ray.
Wow, that is a bold move.
It is. Just feels like it's time to sign up for
Different kind of adventure?
a different kind of adventure. Exactly.
Snart. I mean, Leo. See you around.
I'll see you around.
Aw. Such a nice moment. It makes me think, I remember when, after Snart died, and then later on, Mick went back in time to visit his friend at the bar, and Mick, Snart, of course, has no idea, and Mick's trying to say, you're the best buddy I've ever had. You're the greatest guy. And Snart's like, I'm not all touchy-feely. What do you tell? Like, at that, there's moments like that Mick can bring a tear to your eye, and he's the toughest son of a gun there is, and yet he pulls out this performance once in a while. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The friendship. Yep. All right, guys, that is it for those 2 episodes. We're going to remind you about our Patreon support. It is still happening, and how you can support the show.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
And we appreciate all of you that are still doing that. And I'm just going to throw in right here, our video show, guys, on YouTube is doing pretty well. And I'm surprised. Like, I didn't, like, hi guys, whoever's tuning in, I'm looking at our episodes and we're getting like a minimum of 20 views per episode. And some of them are up over 100 already.
Well, that's kind of cool,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but thanks.
I mean, I look at the statistics. Not everybody's watching it all the way through. They're only watching it for a little bit or whatever's going on. But we have something like 22 subscribers, and I don't know. I didn't expect it to even get this much attention at all. So for those of you that are checking out or watching it, or you're just maybe it's, I don't know if it's our regular listeners or what, but hey, I mean, thanks for, sitting in with us on a season 3 rewatch from however many years ago. Yeah. Like, it's pretty crazy.
We made it this far. Hi.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to say that here because, pretty exciting. So maybe it is worth all the time and effort because it takes me a long time to edit those things.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Cool. We do got some feedback. Let's get into feedback. What should we do? I haven't played this one.
If you don't dial it, we'll cry like a violin. Feedback.
Okay, I'm going to read it because I haven't gotten to read one for a little while. This is an email from Comic Geek Kev. He says, hey, Legends, and so, the beginning of the end is finally here. Starting right from the first scene, Martin shooting the toy arrow to get it. So ridiculous. The only good part was the brief arrow music as he fires the suction cup arrow. Snart is annoying as hell. His smarmy attitude barely worked as a bad guy. As a would-be therapist, it's even worse. Vikings from however many centuries ago have various European accents. Checks out. But it was nice to see the beginning of cooperative relationship with the Legends and Ava. And finally, Mick's weapon actually burns something. That's like stormtroopers shooting nothing all the time. I get it. Or the old G.I. Joe cartoon. Remember that?
Yeah.
X-Force.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
G.I. Joe on one side, Cobra on the other side, shooting laser cannons at each other. Boo, 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 boo. Nobody gets hit. And they're like 50 feet apart. And it goes on for half an hour.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about Darhk pulling on Odin. Some good moments between characters, particularly those involving Jax. And the big goodbye with the Beebo trees was nice. I had totally forgotten Constantine showed up here, which offsets a lot of the Beebo-ness. So it wasn't a total loss as an episode. There were some good points, but the intro of that thing just brings it down a few notches for me. I really feel like it starts a series of silly episodes even when they don't directly involve it. But the intro of Constantine can't be discounted. Now the next episode, starting with an attempted exorcism, the mystic symbol under the title card, and John immediately flirting with Snart. Perfect. Seeing Sara show real fear is something we don't see often, and Lots does a great job with it. Pretty much everything about this episode was great. The story, the performances, even some bi representation. Definitely one of my favorite Legends episodes. Giving episode 9 a 6 out of 10 awful demons, and I don't mean Mallus. And episode 10 is getting a 9.5 out of 10. That's how you do a Legends episode. Until next time, I'm on my phone, so please forgive the typos. Comic Geek Kev.
And I think I got your typos corrected while we were waiting to start, so...
Were you doing it as I was reading?
No, I
did
did it before you got here.
Okay. Good.
We had some time to kill.
Yeah. Being the Flash, I was slow to the show tonight, so funny that, eh? Well, I was facing the turtle, okay? He was slowing me down.
Yeah.
He hit me with his turtle wave. Next up is a voicemail from Perry White.
Hey, Legends. Perry White here with feedback as part of our Season 3 rewatch of Legends of Tomorrow. And I got feedback for Episode 9, the blankety-blank God of War. I will not bring up the name of he who should not be named.
We said it too many times.
And Episode 10, Daddy Darhkest. So let's start with God of War. I still haven't gotten over the death of Martin Stein, but one of the things that I do appreciate about the Arrowverse is that in episodes following a major character's death, the shows have really done a pretty good job of letting the follow-up episode serve as a really good catharsis for the characters on the show. And if nothing else, I can say that at least this episode really took advantage of that by having Jax interact with young Stein. And by no means am I saying that the death of Stein was worth getting to this moment. But if you've got to get to this moment, at least they took full advantage of it. So I will give them kudos for that. The other thing I really loved about this episode, jumping to the end, is just that awesome teaser that John Constantine is coming on board the freaking Waverider, right? And it sort of fits into what this show is all about from the very beginning, right? It was basically supposed to be a sort of revolving door of heroes and villains and characters, and so if you basically drop off 2 and you add 1, and so here we are. The other thing about the episode is it just had the appropriate amount of that he who shall not be named. It was just enough. It didn't overwhelm the episode, in my opinion. It wasn't so overtly just crazy stupid that it drove down the plot. I think it was just enough. And if they figured out a way to just say, you know what, that's enough of that character who shall not be named, and we'll leave it there, that might have been enough. But for whatever reason, they just kept bringing him back and made him more a part of the story. And I think that rubbed a whole bunch of people the wrong way. And I'm pretty sure this person on this podcast who feels the same way as I do. All right. There is a question I have about this episode. I only watched it once, so I don't know the answer to this question, right? But does anybody know, was there an in-episode rationale for why it was that young Stein got plucked out of the timeline? Obviously, the point of it was that he got to interact with Jax, but I didn't know if there was an in-episode reason for why he got pulled out of time and displaced the way he was. If anybody knows, I'm all ears. Tell me all about it. All right, let's jump to episode 10. And anybody who knows me knows that I am a sucker for demon possession stories, man. And I thought the show pulled that off incredibly well here. I just really liked the lighting of it. I love the flickering lights of the sort of possession scenes. I love the red eyes. And I don't know if it was just a stunt person. I don't know if it was a combination of CGI and maybe a contortionist, but I just really freaking like the way that they pulled off the possession scenes in this episode. So kudos to them for that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in this episode is, and I still, for the life of me, I can't remember how they sort of wrapped up the storyline of the totems, right? But I do like how they tie the totems to Mallus in this episode. They basically showed how much of a threat that Mallus could be, because even Constantine was sort of like fearful of him, right? And he's not afraid of a whole bunch of things, right? But he was in this episode. So we see Mallus get presented as a pretty significant villain here, but he's got this vulnerability, and this vulnerability being these totems, which ramps up the anticipation of how this totem storyline is going to factor into Mallus. And I'm obviously really excited to see how that turns out, but for some reason I feel like I'm going to be disappointed. Oh well.
Can't imagine
Speaking
why.
of John Constantine, only he can, like, within a matter of seconds, flirt with both Leo and Sara at the same time, man. I just thought that was pretty freaking funny, right? And speaking of funny flirting scenes, it's also nice to see the sparks beginning to fly between Ava and Sara. Basically, acting like two schoolgirls who have a crush on each other, but have absolutely positively no idea how to act on those feelings. It's just fun to watch them be so like sort of flirtatious, but not really knowing how to deal with that. But speaking of their flirtation, so we know and we understand that Sara has feelings about Ava. Whether she can act on them or not is an entirely different story. But it just seems strange that she would express that she has these feelings for Ava, but also in the same episode basically throw caution to the wind and go and screw around with Constantine at the insane asylum. It just felt like, I mean, we know that they were in sort of a vulnerable and heightened state and they let their passions take over, but we also know that Sara feels the kind of way about Ava. You just would have assumed and imagined that she would have just said, you know what, maybe not. But we're also talking about Sara, and she has screwed her way through a lot of history on this show, so maybe that certainly fits into her character, at least at this point.
Yep.
Long story short, I thought these were two really solid episodes. I enjoyed them a great deal. I am really interested to hear what other folks have to say, particularly about how the character who shall not be named, how they fit into the first story. Anyway, this is Perry White squeaking by, trying to make another deadline, and I can't wait to talk about the next two episodes because one of them is my all-time favorite. Zari doing her best hedgehog impersonation, so I just can't wait to see it, man. Anyway, this is Perry White making a deadline. I'm out.
Well,
It's Hedgehog Day.
Yep. There is only one other fine folk, so you have to singularize that. It's just you and Comic Geek Kev there. We don't get as much feedback for our rewatch episodes as normal.
We do not.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
But let's answer. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I was wondering the same thing. I was like, how did Martin get pulled in?
And why?
Are these anachronisms just like naturally making reality Swiss cheese and he just gets pulled in, or was this something Mallus related? I mean, we don't really see. He just kind of falls through the doorway.
Because the anachronism is Beebo being back in time during the Viking era.
Right.
But he gets pulled from 2017 Toy Store.
1992.
Or, sorry, 1992. A toy store, like you said, after that whole opening sequence and he runs out of the store carrying Beebo, poof, he runs right through a portal, basically. Or whatever.
Yeah, he's him and Beebo together. I think he got pulled because he was holding the Beebo doll.
Yeah, but there's no explanation why. Why would that happen?
Other than they keep running into themselves throughout history. I think there's a story point that we're possibly forgetting, and it may be because eventually it doesn't get fully tied in and paid off with the finale. We do know that things end up getting dropped by the end of this season, and I wonder if this was one of them, because they do make it a point to say we keep running into ourselves throughout history, or versions of ourselves, or long lost family members, or all of the above. So I do not remember. I feel like it does have to do with Mallus. I do not remember why, or if they even fully flesh that out, or if it just gets dropped. They do fully flesh out the totems, and we see how they resolve the totem storyline. I do not recall if this particular piece of it, of them running to themselves throughout history, gets resolved. If it does, I just don't remember.
Okay.
My take.
Interesting. Except that Martin Stein's no longer with us, so he's not running into himself in the past, but Jax is.
Right. Yeah. He's still connected in with the legends. So
tough one to answer. And then what was his other question? Something about the blue doll? I can't remember what his last question was.
I don't know.
Okay. Sorry, Perry. You may have to remind us. Yeah. Well, thank you guys, for keeping us going at the end of the show with something to read, something to listen to. We much appreciate it. Glad you guys are enjoying the rewatch with us. It's surprising. I mean, yes, I didn't like the Beebo episode, but I'm really enjoying going back to see that season 3 still wasn't that bad yet. There's still a lot of good stuff here.
Still a lot of good stuff. I agree.
A lot of good stuff. And you guys last week when I wasn't here, I just say publicly on the show, you guys, I swear you guys don't really need me sometimes, because you do just fine without me. The show sounded great. You had great conversation, so good job.
Oh, well, thank you.
But I do laugh when you guys struggle with the parts that I usually do, and now you have to do it, and you're like, oh yeah, do this, and I'll do that. I get a chuckle out of it.
Yeah, I mean, my soundboard is probably as full as yours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had to move some over to another board on there so I could find them, and then I couldn't find. It's like, so it's.
And you're not in the habit of doing it.
Yeah,
because I do it every time.
Not in this show, no.
Yeah, no. I did some promos, so that was fun.
Yeah. There you go. See? Fun stuff. Anyway, guys, if you'd like to be part of the show and get in on this action about rewatching Legends 3, or just practice for when Superman Lois comes back, just listen to this.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to Tomorrow's Legends Podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
Yeah. So how many episodes are in this season?
18. It's our longest season.
Yep.
18 is our longest season? We never got to 20?
Yes. Nope.
Wow. Okay.
Nope.
Well,
we had one with 17. We had one with
15
15.
or something.
I think we had a couple with 15. And then we have a 13 episode. It was last season, 13. Yeah.
Wow. Longest season.
This is our longest season by one episode. Yeah. 18.
All right. Well, I guess we just passed the halfway point then.
We sure did.
And we're trying to get done before Christmas. That's the goal.
We are trying.
Yeah.
And I really want to let's test our listeners who's actually listening to this. I want to throw out a guess. I want you guys to guess what the bonus show, the mystery show, is that we are going to cover in the new year. I'll give you one hint. It has nothing to do with the Arrowverse, but it does have to do with superheroes. See if you can find it and send us in some guesses. Or maybe I'll put a poll. Maybe we'll put a poll up on the Facebook page just for something fun to do. People can start guessing.
Sounds good.
All right.
I should write a note about that. Okay. Alrighty, guys. Yeah, that's it for us for tonight. We got 2 weeks off, so when are we back again for episode 11 and 12? What's the...
November 3rd.
November
3rd.
Yep.
Wow, we're in November already.
Yeah, and we'll be back for Here I Go Again. Curse of the Earth Totem. So.
Oh, okay. Cool. That'll be fun. It'll be fun to get back into those.
Those were good episodes.
Yeah. I'm amazed how much I'm not remembering. That's
Me too,
right.
honestly.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's funny. Cool, guys. Well, remember to check out the other shows. Dive into DC, The Mandalore, and Cybercast, and check out the stuff on the network offers. There's not a lot going on out there right now. Dive into DC is probably the most active out of all of us. They do a show every week, so go check them
They've got the Riddler audio drama from Spotify is next up on their watch. So
That's cool.
They were covering My Adventures with Superman, that new cartoon. I tried to watch it, and I gave up after the first episode. I can't.
Really? I heard good things about it.
So did I, and I maybe went in with too high expectations, but there's some humor in it. It's funny, but the animation, I can't handle that wacky Japanese-style animation with the big eyes or the big mouths or the of sound effects. Like, it's just, no, not in Superman. Please don't. It's the same reason why I didn't like any of the Star Wars Vision stuff. I couldn't. I stopped. So, you know what? I can't spend my time watching this show. Anyway, maybe I'll send them some feedback about that. I'm sure they'd like to know. I just couldn't. I quit. What I'm trying to finish is Young Justice, though. The last season of Young Justice, I completely forgot all about it, and I never finished it.
Yeah, I need to finish it as well. So
that's what we got to do. Maybe that's an idea for the future. We should cover Young Justice if we got nothing. Because you've never seen it, Harley, have you?
No, I've never watched it.
It's so good. It's such a good cartoon. Like, very mature, so.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Ready to sign off? We'll sign off. Alrighty. This is The Flash, and I am signing off for last week and this week, officially. And next week.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
This is X-Force 11. So say we all.
And Gideon, we forgot about you.
Oh, bollocks.
We signed off too early, guys. Got too much music left. Jeff's conducting the orchestra.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast network. Be sure to check out our partner shows, The Mandalore and Dive into DC, covering your favorite Star Wars and DC Comics properties. Thanks for listening.